I want to briefly note one thing about Ohio that that basically I've talked about a lot with respect to Tucker Carlson back in the day when Tucker Carlson was like starting to do a lot of like pro-labor commentary, even though he wasn't, right? He's still a libertarian. And Izzy brings up a really good point. Izzy, who does comms for Ilhan Omar, says, if Democrats don't get their shit together and organize around an extremely winnable and easy message because it's good politics and it's good policy, and one that happens to be true, corporate greed is killing people, Republicans will be happy to make this into a piece of culture war / great reset nonsense. We all know what happened in Ohio and East Palestine, where a train derailed, carrying a bunch of really toxic chemicals, toxic pollutants. They had to do a controlled demolition. They blew up the train. And then they told people to go back home after like a couple days. Now, nobody thinks that the area is safe. There's mass animal genocide happening. You know, fish are dead. Chickens are dying. You know, a bunch of fucking animals are dying. People are reporting that their cars are busted. Right? And yet the government's like, hey, no, it's fine. And the responsible party, Norfolk Southern, the owner of the railroad company itself, gave $25,000 to the small town of East Palestine, Ohio, and said, fuck off. In the meantime, another derailment happened in Houston, by the way, yesterday. We talked about that as well. It's whatever. That's just a thing. Now, these derailments are not unforeseen. As a matter of fact, railroad workers have been talking about $25K to each person affected. No, $25K to the town. A town of 5,000 people got $25,000 from Norfolk Southern because of this ecological disaster that they caused. It's fuck you money. It's $5 per person. Now, we don't even know exactly how polluted the water is, for example. They have to keep testing. We don't know how dangerous exposure to the chemicals that are in the air could potentially be for the town of East Palestine, Ohio. But ultimately, it doesn't fucking matter. The media is not really covering it, and the issues have been talked about for a very long time. If you remember my coverage during the railroad strikes that Biden struck down, one of the main things that workers were talking about were better safety measures implemented, and also hiring more workers from the inspector side, hiring more workers, updating braking systems. All of these things were struck down by Norfolk Southern, worth $50 billion. That also had a lot of cash on hand, which it's using to the tune of $10 billion in engaging in stock buybacks. They decided not to improve their fucking safety structure. They decided not to improve their braking systems, not to update it. They also decided to, spend at least $6 million in lobbying funds to make sure that the government doesn't force them to do that. But guess what? It's all accounted for, so who cares? As long as the train is not exclusively carrying petrol, it's not hazardous material. Another distinction that they pushed for and got. Just fun things to think about. And the Democrats are not making a bigger stink out of this for some fucking weird reason. I don't know why. I haven't heard a single goddamn Democrat talk about this, with the exception of a couple from the squad. when it's an open and shut, absolute banger of a fucking case to do politics around. It's good politics to say this is corporate greed. It's good politics to say it's Trump-era deregulation. Trump-era deregulation that caused this to happen. Now, of course, the other reason why the National Democratic Party doesn't want it to focus on it is because it came immediately after the Biden administration struck down, collective bargaining talks between the railroad union that basically brought this exact same thing and the probability of this thing happening up in those conversations. So it's nice. Here's some updates, though. This is cool. Reporter, if you lived in the area, would you feel comfortable moving back into your home? I love Mike DeWine, by the way. He's such a comical-looking person.
Governor, if you were to live in the area, would you feel comfortable moving back into your home?
Let me take the first part. Look, I think that I would be drinking the bottled water, and I would be continuing to find out what the tests were showing as far as the air. I would be alert and concerned, but I think I would probably be back in my house.
No government official should look like that. Just cartoonish looking motherfucker. Pete Buttigieg finally talked about it last night. Said, I continue to be concerned about the impacts of the February 3 train derailment near East Palestine, Ohio, and the effects on families in the 10 days since their lives were upended through no fault of their own. It's important that families have access to useful and accurate information. The U.S. Department of Transportation has been supporting the investigation led by the National Transportation Safety Board. Our Federal Rail Administration and pipelines and hazardous material teams were on site within hours of the initial incident and continue to be actively engaged. We will look to these investigations and the investigation results, and based on them, use all relevant authorities to ensure accountability and continue to support safety. I can't believe he tweeted about this now. Like, this is a day of tweet. $20 hours ago. Meaning, like, it took him almost fucking 2 weeks. A week and change for him to even say anything about it. What the fuck? In the meantime, our federal partners at the EPA are on site and monitoring indoor and outdoor air quality to test for VOCs and other chemicals of concern. EPA screened 291 homes and no detections were identified, and 181 homes remain. To request screening, call the number. Like, Lizzo didn't have to tweet about this for Pete Buttigieg to finally fucking say something about it. You know what I mean? JD Vance tweeted about this 10 days after. Brother, you are, oh my God, that's even worse than Pete Buttigieg. Bro, you are literally, like, you have one job, man. This is your fucking job. What the fuck? The first thing a politician does when a disaster happens is definitely not Twitter. You guys must miss Trump. I don't know. You are a delusional puppet and a bootlicker if you think that a press release to offer assurances to your constituents is just Twitter. How brain broken are you? A press release that comes 10 days later after a fucking catastrophe implies that you couldn't even do the fucking bare minimum for 10 fucking days. 10 days, man. 10 days. The chemical or the toxic pollutants and its long-term consequences might not even be as bad, but it doesn't fucking matter. Like, at that point, the fact that these people have not said anything and haven't done anything implies how normal they foresee this, how normal they believe this actually is. That, like, they didn't even think about it. They didn't even consider it. And it is normal. You need to understand how fucking normal this is. That's why when I mentioned it, people are shocked.